Welcome to season 4 of the In Between podcast. Today's guest is the founder of Levitt Life Coaching and is a life coach specializing in helping women break free from alcohol as they navigate divorce and or the dating world. Jeannette Levitt is a certified This Naked Mind coach who focuses on a no shame or blame, compassion-led and science-based approach to changing your relationship with alcohol, yourself, and those you love. In this episode, we will be having a conversation on how to stop using alcohol to cope with life changes, as well as sharing Jeanette's personal in-between stories. Jeanette, welcome to the In-Between podcast.
Hi there, Cassidy. It's so great to be here.
I am so excited to be chatting with you. If you listened in season 3 towards the end, I had an episode with Tony Will and was connected to Jeanette through Tony. And so I'm really excited to really dive into all of your in-between moments. But I specifically want to talk first about your relationship with alcohol, because I think you have a pretty impactful in-between story there that led you to starting your business. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was definitely a late bloomer when it came to alcohol. I did not drink very much during my marriage. I was married for 18 years. And then in my late 40s, I got divorced. And that is when I started to turn to alcohol. So I was using it to just deal with the trauma and the grief and the sadness and all of the difficult emotions around that. And then I was also turning to it when I started to enter the dating world as well. And I found myself with a very different life where I had time when I didn't have my kids. And I started to turn to alcohol for a whole host of reasons. So I never actually developed a physical dependence on it. I was pretty much a binge drinker. And I was still doing okay in my life. I was still taking care of the kids and doing what I needed to do, but I was really holding myself back. So I was doing all of this self-development stuff and things that I needed to do once, because I was now in this traumatic place, being single. My previous life, married life was over. And I was in this new space and doing a lot of the right things, but I was also numbing it all with alcohol. And I think a lot of it was that I thought AA was the only answer, the only thing I could do. And once I realized that wasn't the case and that there were options, I was off and running.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Do you feel like there was a catalyst moment where you realized that maybe it was a problem, or did you know the whole time?
You know what? I knew for quite a long time that it was a problem, but I think I'm very, I think the common response where you just kind of stay stuck in this cycle because you think you can control it and you're not at this rock bottom. And, I still had all these beliefs around it that it was serving me somehow. So I just kept on trying to be a better moderate drinker. And yeah, I had one good friend who was in AA, and it's all I knew. And I just knew that it didn't resonate for me. And I knew I did not identify with the term alcoholic, didn't want to declare myself powerless. And so I just kept spinning my wheels and hoping that I could get to a better place. I also was deathly afraid of trying to give it up if I were going to be in the dating world, because I was in and out of relationships and in the dating world. And I had all of these misconceptions about, needing it to be dating. But then once I discovered this naked mind and an alternative to AA, and that there were options and ways to put it behind me that would work, that's when it all changed.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're alone in the dating aspect, because I think that is part of the culture around dating, right? Is oftentimes first dates are about food, about drinks, going to get a drink with someone and learning about them. So I would assume that's a big problem for people who are dating, is relying on it. And I know for myself, dating, and I've tried and done sober dates, and it takes a lot of courage. It really does. You got to lean into who you truly are and not be so, you're just so self-aware when you're not having a couple drinks and having that ability to relax.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much, dating alcohol-free is so much better than dating alcohol fueled. But you have to, it takes some mindset work around it to get to that place. Because we often have, myself included, I
Mhm.
had a lot of beliefs about needing it and wanting it, thinking I needed the liquid courage. There were all sorts of things, thoughts and beliefs I had around it. But once I started into the dating world, I realized that there were actually a lot of people who were happy to date somebody who wasn't drinking. I also just thought that I was
Mhm.
going to limit myself so much and that people would make all these assumptions about me and, you know, but I proved myself
I
wrong.
love that you focus on the self-belief because that's really the key, right? It's like going into a date or any atmosphere. I mean, I think about networking events too, because I have one tonight and I'm like, oh man, are they going to serve alcohol? So I have that liquid courage. But that's just what it is, right? Is we're believing that we need that in order to have everyone around us accept us or be normal, whatever the belief is. And so I think that's a huge
Right.
conversation within it is like, what are you actually believing about yourself? Which brings me to my next point because you did end up finding something that would work that wasn't AA. Could you tell us a little bit about that moment when you found the organization that obviously helped you and how it resonated versus AA and what kind of the different mentalities are?
Sure. So this Naked Mind it's a fantastic organization that has a number of different options, resources, and support within it. And I latched on to a 30-day alcohol experiment that they have. It's a free program, and I did it in conjunction with a dry January. So in January of 2022, I did the program. So I was doing the alcohol experiment. So it's content, daily content that I was doing in addition to working on remaining alcohol free for the month. And I dove into the information. It's all science based and compassion led. And I loved everything that I was learning and the coaching that I was getting in that program. And I fairly easily was able to give up alcohol during that month. And I loved how I felt. And I just was very motivated by the end to keep going. I was like, I've got 30 days under me and I just didn't want to go back. So I continued. They had another program called 100 Days of Lasting Change. I did that. And I stuck around in the community. They have essentially an online support group within it. And I stayed connected. And then about a year and a half later is when I saw that they had coach training. And I was so happy with how I felt now that I had gotten rid of alcohol that I just wanted to keep going and pay it forward and really dive into the work. But yeah, the methodology is it's not about labeling yourself. There's no need to declare yourself an alcoholic. In fact, that term isn't even used in the medical community or scientific community anymore. It's alcohol use disorder. There's just tons of gray area. And it's very much about self-compassion and learning. And it's just a different approach where you're not felt stigmatized or, guilt-ridden if you have we call them a data point. So if you drink when you didn't intend to, and you're encouraged to learn from that and keep moving as opposed to, you cash in your chip and you're back to day one and which is very demotivating, it turns out. So I love the methodology and the coaching within it. It's just a great organization.
That's awesome. It definitely gives a different perspective and mentality when you're focusing on the self-compassion and that you have the ability to start again. Because I really think I mean, we tell children, right, that they have second chances, and as adults, we do too.
For sure. Yeah, we liken it a lot to just like learning to walk, and you keep
Yeah.
going. And it doesn't mean all is lost or the learning isn't there. You don't, if you haven't drank for 30 days and then you drink and you didn't mean to, you don't have to go back to day one. Keep on going. And so that's one of the things that I love that's quite different about some traditional other methodology. So
Hmm. How has the in between been from, I mean, obviously, I think you're on your own personal journey forever to then transitioning to the coaching role where now you're mentoring others to have this experience for themselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. It's really fun because especially for me, I used to work in human resources many moons ago, so before kids, but I gave up. I stopped working, so I was a stay-at-home mom, and I hadn't worked for money. I'd done a bunch of volunteer work and things, but diving into, starting my own business, you don't want to know how old I am, like double your age. And starting a business has just been so freaking fun, especially because I identified with this, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm kind of a follower. I'm not a leader. I had all these silly beliefs about myself, but I was so passionate about my own alcohol freedom and the people that I was working with and the organization, TNM, This Naked Mind, that I was like, yeah, I think I might be an entrepreneur. I'm going to do this. So it's been really fun learning to build a business and working with other women and just, especially in my niche around divorce and dating, because that was my story. And so getting to work with others who are struggling like I had in the past is great.
I think that's incredible because truly a great entrepreneur is someone who has the passion that you have for what you're doing, right? And also from that personal standpoint to now being able to help other people, where they've been, you've felt the feelings they feel. And I think that's what makes a great coach is someone who's been through the nitty gritty. They're
Right.
not just telling you to do something they've never done before. And not only have you gone through the phases of the program, but you've also lived it in real time and you're still living it as you make those decisions for your life. So you mentioned that obviously your coaching business, Levity Life, is focused really on drinking, divorce, and dating, the 3 Ds. And why do you think that those things go so hand in hand, right? Like you obviously have this big life moment of divorce or you're starting to date again. And why do you think that people latch on to alcohol as a resource, as something to get them through those times?
Oh, unfortunately, it's really pretty common. I mean, it's just societally, we're taught that this sub is going to help us, it's going to calm our nerves, or it's a way, you know, congratulate ourselves for getting through this hard day. And it's really, I mean, especially, women, when you get divorced, oftentimes our friends give us a pass for if we start drinking too much because, you're going through a hard time. The assumption is that when things calm down, you'll go back to normal. But the problem is that alcohol is addictive, and sometimes, not for everyone, sometimes people divorce and, well, sometimes they don't start drinking more, but some do. And it may, go back to normal drinking, quote unquote, or lighter drinking. But sometimes it just continues and it escalates. And then I think what often happens, women find that they're oftentimes without the kids. So now they are alone. They have opportunity to drink more. They're socializing differently. Maybe they're going out with other friends that if they're single, and before they were home with their husband and their kids all the time. But now maybe they don't have the kids half the time. And then if they embark into the dating world, as you mentioned, I mean, that's what you do. It's meet for drinks is what everyone says. And does not have to be that way. And there's a huge subset of people who are happy to not be doing that and do other fun things. It's a slippery slope, and it's not that hard to fall into if you're not paying attention.
I would assume too, it's a lot of nerves. It's a lot of anxiety, like you mentioned. And yeah, we've been trained to know that those substances obviously relax you. They allow you to have fun. So from the divorce side, you're anxious, you got a lot going on. Okay, let me suppress that. And then from the dating side, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. I have all this energy. Let me calm myself down. And it's interesting you brought up the motherhood point because I had been having a conversation. So my other business besides the podcast is social media. And I have a mental health therapist. And one of the things we've been leaning into in social media is the conversation between mothers on social media saying like, well, because my kids stress me out, I'm allowed to have a glass of wine at night. And when does that become a problem, right? When does that become the kids aren't actually the excuse, we're just having that glass of wine. And when I
Right.
started to kind of help her create content, we were having the discussion. I was like, wow, this is so interesting. I'm not a mom yet, so I don't resonate, but it's
Mm,
interesting how quickly we are to blame someone else to allow ourselves to have that glass of wine. You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge, and I mean, mommy wine culture is still big and out there. I mean, sometimes I think, oh, are we getting past that and people realizing that it's not a helpful thing to encourage? And I'm not trying to demonize. I mean, plenty of people drink light, and don't develop a problem with it. But the culture around moms and wine, I think, can be really detrimental because we normalize it as the thing that's helpful. But I mean, really, it doesn't actually help anxiety. Yes, it can make you feel relaxed and it can give you that initial 20 minutes of a good feeling, but ultimately you're left chasing it. And it's not, I mean, for our mental health and wellness, it's not the answer, and if it becomes a
Yep.
problem, then it can be really hard to unwind. And that's why for people have to say to be aware and notice it and know that you don't have to wait until there's a rock bottom and you can start making change.
Mhm. Well, and your children are watching you and they're watching when mommy gets stressed at
Oh,
the end of the
God.
day, she gets a glass of wine or however it is interpreted. And I mean, like you just said, it doesn't have to be wine. It can be whatever your vice is and addictive
Right.
behaviors. It could be social media, right? Like there's plenty of
Yes.
times when social media becomes something that is not healthy for us. And it's all about having the mentality of looking inward and really having that conversation with ourselves that we often don't want to have of like, is this behavior serving me to the best of its ability?
Yeah.
Or is it becoming something that is negative and destructive in my life?
Yeah. I think I've heard a lot listened to a number of your guests and so many people talking about this kind of numbing behavior and starting to look at, well, what am I trying to numb from? And can I actually start to feel these things and process them? Because you're right. I mean, there's so many other things that people use to distract them from actually paying attention to the things they need to pay attention to so they can live the life they want. But yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
not just wine, it's all kinds of things. And the kids suffer
Yeah.
and we suffer, like,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like you can ask yourself, obviously, this show is about in betweens. Like in the case of a divorce, is the divorce the in between or is it everything you're running from after that? Right. And
yeah,
that's where the numbing comes in and you're numbing and you're trying to avoid all the other things that you're avoiding in the life because you're focused on just what the divorce is. And so it's the conversation that we continue to have on these episodes of ownership, of looking inward, which it sounds like that's what your coaching program really emphasizes is the ability to look inward and take ownership for the things that you're responsible for.
yeah, and definitely. I mean, that's a lesson. It took me a long time to learn. I'm always
Yeah.
like amazed at
I'm
people
always
your
learning
age
it.
who you are so, yeah, but you're so much further ahead than I was at your age. I mean, I was like clueless. It took me a long time.
Well,
I mean,
like I told Tony, it's because I do these podcasts and I try to interview people who are older and much, much wiser than me.
well, you're getting there. I'm very impressed and just intentional. You are living your life. It seems, and the people
Thank
on
you.
that you're bringing on the show too. Just,
Thank you.
yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you. Well, I do want
Yeah,
to
you're
talk
welcome.
about some other in between moments of your life that I think would resonate with my audience. In one, kind of shifting to the name of your business, Levity Life Coaching. Obviously, there's so many different definitions of levity, but it's really like having that lightness and laughter and joy of life. You've had so many other big moments in your life. Obviously, you mentioned divorce, becoming, a mom with no kids in the home, to ending up having, a friendly relationship with your husband and his now wife. And I would love for you to talk about during all those things, give us some insight to those things, and then how you've been able to work on maintaining that sense of levity through these situations and in between moments.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've had in a lot of ways, my life has been kind of heavy. I mean, I lost my first child when he was one. I was married around, I think it was age 31, and we had a child fairly quickly. He passed away at one from meningitis. And and then I had some things during my marriage that were really hard and difficult. Then the loss of my marriage. I got cancer right after, I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on the paper, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my hair, this is a wig. I think I might have mentioned that to you. My hair never came back. So all these really hard things, and that I won't go into more. But through all of it, I've really been able to learn to just kind of accept what's going on and allow it, and not like, just kind of let go of the boxing gloves. So I just kind of loosen up. And I mean, maybe I'm lucky that I think I have a fairly optimistic outlook in general. I mean, I'm blessed in a lot of ways, despite a lot of the hard things that have happened in my life. I recognize how fortunate and lucky and blessed I am. And so I've tried as I work through things to like maintain a lot of joy in my life too, because life isn't it to be, to have some levity and some lightness and some joy in it. And that's what I hope to help my clients with too, to see and get back to, because divorce is, I mean, even if you want a divorce or, it is always awful, almost always. I haven't talked to anyone who had an easy time through divorce. It's really hard.
I'm sure not.
And so you could get into a pretty rough spot. And if you do have kids, that adds a whole layer of complexity, and it's just really hard. And oftentimes it's, if it's happening at midlife, all this other stuff or menopause or whatever. And so, I think it's just important to get support and try to be intentional about your life and bring in the people that you need to help you stay grounded and focus on what you want and have some levity.
Are there certain things that you do in your daily practice that keep you grounded and joyful, optimistic?
I mean, I am not a somatic expert by any means, but I do like to, tap into my breath, my body, and move. I mean, I have dogs that I walk with every day. I mean, I spend 2 hours walking my dogs every day, which is like that's super important to me. And maintaining friendships. I'm very intentional about my life and what's important to me. And while my business and this new venture that I started a couple years ago is super important and I love it, it also has to fit with my other things, because I have a beautiful relationship and I care very much about, paying attention to that. And my kids, they're all young adults, but like I have one in my house right now. Yeah, so just being intentional about that and just having good people in my life and support. And I hope does that answer the question? I don't know if
Yes, that's so important. We've had a couple somatic healers on the podcast, and it's huge. Like even just walking and having a conversation is so healing to your body and your energy. And yeah, I completely agree with you on the connections. I think there's a book, and I can't remember exactly what the book is called, but they were talking about how the people that live the longest are the people that had the best connections and relationships in their life. And they were most fulfilled by those things. And so I think that is huge. And one of the biggest things is having mentors and coaches. And I had listened to your episode earlier today with Tony, where you guys kind of touch on the fact that you still have a coach in your life, which I love, because it's like even coaches need coaches, right? And can you touch a little bit on why, even though as a coach, you still have someone in your life that's leading you?
Oh, I just think, I mean, we're never done. We always need support. Yeah, sometimes I have more than one coach in my life, So
Yes.
I'm all about that, which, yeah, I do actually. I also am fortunate that I can afford it because sometimes coaching, whatever, it comes with a price tag too, depending. But which was a nice thing about This Naked Mind, to be honest with you. There's lots of free support in that area too. So, but yeah, I think there's no shame in asking for help. And I love to have my people around me. And yeah, I will probably always have a coach in my life.
And what is the one
So,
thing you
mm.
would say to someone who's listening that maybe they are struggling in some capacity with alcohol and they're they're not really sure where to start. They're not sure if they need help, but they do feel they're struggling. What would you tell them?
Well, I'd say first off, they're not alone in that. I think so often people get stuck because they are riddled with shame about what's happening and they've just lost trust with themselves. And, it is not them. Alcohol is an addictive substance. It's geared to reel you in and keep you stuck. So just know that they're not alone. I would say tell someone if they are really keeping it close to the vest and they know it's become a problem, but they have not shared it with anyone. I would say tell at least one person. I would say check out This Naked Mind because there are all kinds of great resources there. And just take a baby step, just acknowledging it, being honest with themselves and reaching out to somebody is a great first step. But wherever they're at, just to know they're not alone, and start to reach out.
I love that answer. I totally agree with you. I think telling someone that you truly align with and care about is a great first step. And then maybe they can help you with resources and looking into the programs that might best benefit you. With that, could you share where they can learn more about Levity Life Coaching and if they want to get involved with This Naked Mind, how they can get involved with all of those things?
Sure. Well, This Naked Mind is thisnakedmind.com. And they're on all the social media. It's a very big organization with lots to offer. Levity Life Coaching is just levitylifecoaching.com. It's my website. I've got a freebie on there about drinking and dating if they want to check that out. And they can follow me on Instagram, Levity Life Coaching. Yeah, so that's how to find me and This Naked Mind. But
Awesome.
yeah, definitely if they're struggling, they're not alone in it.
Well, thank you so much, Jeannette, for sharing all your wisdom and your life story and your in between with us. I think that this episode is extremely valuable. And, there's all different forms of addiction, and everybody experiences that in their own way. And I think just having the conversation is the most important start, is having the conversation and asking yourself, where am I with alcohol? Where am I with social media, with food, all these different things that as a society we've taken on in some sort of pattern that might not be healthy. And it's so refreshing to hear that there's resources out there that, if AA is not something that aligns with you, that you can look into other avenues and still get the help you need. So if you're listening to this and you're called to learn more about This Naked Mind, definitely reach out to Jeannette, either for coach, or I'm sure she would be interested just to have a conversation and support you in any way she can. And thank you so much for joining us on the In Between podcast, Jeannette.
Oh, thanks for having me, Cassidy. I know the glitches were a little rough, but hopefully it all worked out okay. Yeah, it's wonderful to talk to you.
We got through it. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the In Between podcast, and we'll catch you next week.